Hello. I want to go over just like briefly a little bit over a book called Orthodoxy and Religion in the Future. It's by Father Seraphim Rose from the Russian Orthodox Church. He went into this book as a very harsh criticism, or gave some very harsh criticisms on the West, which I feel very strongly about as well. As far as Christianity goes, it needed to be done. He did a good way of breaking a lot of stuff down. He is a very lucid writer. He gets to the point, as many church fathers do, just straight away on some stuff, and doesn't really hold back. And he makes sure that there are cases where he builds a case with evidence, and just doesn't say something like aliens exist. He backs it up. In the first couple of chapters, he talks about the ancient faith, the faith that we hold near and dear, especially as Orthodox Christians, and the importance of it throughout the ages, and the purpose the church has served. Then he goes into talking about aliens and the supernatural and things of that nature, things like from other dimensions, and things that are, go bump in the night, you could say that. He makes cases, he makes explanations. There was one in particular where I remember he was making a case and was talking about the Battle of Los Angeles, basically the whole UFOs coming out of nowhere and scaring the people of Los Angeles. And then he backed it up with Close Encounters of the Third Kind and how that movie got made. He referenced the director and a couple of the people who were involved as far as police reports go and the things that happened surrounding that whole case. I thought that was very interesting. I did not know a whole lot about that. And that showed, disclosures and the ways that people were actually talking about the Close Encounters of the Third Kind and what transpired, which I thought was really neat. He went into giving it a lot more graphic detail. He went into giving it a little bit more of a substance. Just didn't say, as a church father, or I'm sorry, as a priest of the church. He just didn't say, "Oh, aliens exist, got to convert now." He wasn't phrasing it like that at all, which I found very refreshing. He was making a case for, there's other things out there. They're going to try to lead you to believe in those things. They're new age, Gnostic, and misleading. So you need to get on board, or you need to submit to the New World Order. And he was making cases to where these things were wrong. And obviously the things that go bump in the night or come visit us aren't made in the image of God. So he built up the case as to how Hollywood was pushing it, the propaganda in a sense, and people involved with these close encounters were around it, and he made a good emphasis on not to believe it. So that was all pretty interesting. That was definitely all very, very something I've been interested in for a long time. I remember as a kid, I read books on UFOs and stuff. I've been so highly enthralled in the subject. It's not even funny. Like I definitely have, such vast kind of amateur knowledge at it. But I think a lot of it is fascinating. There's a lot of it, some of it crap. Yeah, some of the stuff out there is just, hilarious. We'll find Bigfoot one day, though. I can guarantee you that. Anyway, there's something that was really like in the middle of the book. I had to stop, and it's something that J Dyer talks about. It's something that Father Peter Ayres probably talks about. It's something that the entirety of the Orthodox Church talks about a lot. That's ecumenicism, heresies, anathema, and basically an entire dismantling of the West and its embracement of New Age stuff, New Age revivalism, ecumenicism, and as far as like pinning it all on the CIA, I'm not going to do that. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough credibility to say that at all. That would probably be a cop out too. To be perfectly honest with all of you, that would be a cop out. That would just be me saying blaming something and just moving on. I'm not going to do that. Anyway, the whole thing with revivalism, I found to be very interesting. Obviously, it was one of the things that led me to Orthodox Christianity, actually. Much like the Catholic schizophrenic, the theology that's schizophrenic with the Catholics, and the Protestant just emptiness. There was definitely a revival period that I had no idea even existed within the 70s. And they were trying to bring back, I guess, in a sense, with the hippie movement, they were trying to bring back all the Protestant Baptist notions. I mean, all that revivalist stuff of, you could even say, the later 1800s, pre-Civil War era too, in a sense, and even in like after World War II. So that was a huge time for revivalism through like the mid 40s all the way up until, I don't know, maybe like mid 40s all the way up until the mid 50s. And that started to come back. Well, maybe even late 50s. I'm not really 100% on that. And then you had in the late 60s all the way through the 70s, you had another period of revivalism and ecumenicism. And they were taking like what they used to sell out, like stadiums, sports stadiums full of all, basically Protestants and, cafeteria Catholics and all that good stuff. And they were bowing down and claiming, all the New Age stuff to be true and interjected into their faith. And for us, that is just one of those things where it's not gonna be anything that's good for Christianity. See, the West has demystified itself, and I've said this a lot in my church father videos, where the West has just lost its mysticism, it's lost its way, it's lost its meaning, it's lost its purpose, because the point of having a church in the first place, a church authority, is that it doesn't run ancillary to the faith, or to your faith, or to others' faiths. The church authority should be first and foremost, and what those dictates do, and how you should shape your understanding of the faith around it. So what led to the revivalism was, something that was very telling. I mean, even as being born in like the mid 80s all the way up to the mid 90s, I can remember seeing maybe even all the way almost into the late 90s, now that I remember it. I can remember those infomercials of those Protestant preachers and pastors. They're interviewing this, like the 700 Club, they're interviewing, gurus and things of that nature from different religions. I mean, it's all well and good. That's fine. You can definitely, not saying you can't talk to different religious leaders around the world, or different religious folks around the world. That's perfectly okay. The thing of it is that they tried to blend and they tried to create a universal church. And that's not good. That's ecumenicism. That's apostasy. That's heresy. It's anathema. It's all that. And one of the things that I found pretty revealing on the West is that with Father Seraphim Rose's criticisms on it, he was spot on with saying that the West has lost its way. It's lost its spiritual life. It's lost its mysticism. And looking at those Gnostic paradigms or those New Age kind of stuff, which is really in turn just old beliefs, old repackaged stuff, born anew, born again into something like Protestantism or Catholicism. Orthodoxy hasn't really gone that way, or hasn't fallen ill to it, thanks be to God on that. And I think one of those things where he elucidates on it so well. He says, ecumenicism is a heresy of the church, and this shows the reason why it's a heresy of the church. Yeah. So what's the point of even showing that if there's going to be that, and if there's going to be any ecumenicism, it's going to resolve issues of the church, not create more problems and bringing in this New Age stuff, claiming, creating more apostasy and not being involved with the true faith. And see, Orthodoxy has never undergone a revivalism. It's never needed to undergo a revivalism because of the truth and the purpose it serves. And having those early church fathers and having that early wisdom, it stops us from trying to get into these constant modes of undoing, rehashing, or refreshing, whichever. And calling, people, you're not born again in the spirit. You're not this, you're not that. And then, once you go to a stadium full of people with the guru up there of oh yeah, all of a sudden you're reborn. Yeah, that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. But revivalism is one of those things where, as a Christian, it always rubbed me the wrong way. I could never put my finger quite on it. But it was one of those things where I saw the lies. I saw the discrepancy. I saw the falseness of it. And there was definitely a huge empty hole that the Protestants can't fill because their theology is backwards. And they have to fill it with something like a New Age kind of deal, or a more far eastern, a more mystified sense of beliefs from the Far East. So it's one of those things where he did a good job on elucidating on it. He did a good job of explaining it. I definitely recommend this book. I definitely recommend that you go and check it out, because if you don't, you won't have a good understanding of how Orthodoxy is supposed to work in the modern world. It opened my eyes to a lot of back and forth, and the dialectic of how it should have worked itself in the first place, because without looking at something or having something to look at like Orthodox Christianity versus these other fragmented sects, or these other fragmented parts of Christianity, then thank God for the wisdom. Thank God for the church fathers. Thank God for all of their works and all of their wondrous and continued. Well, I guess you could say a sense of revivalism, because the more ancient and the more archaic you get, the more you realize that how timeless that is, how timeless that wisdom is. And as usual, Father Seraphim Rose, with his uncanny ability to reason and his vision, it's just, obvious 5 out of 5. Stars, that is. I don't know. Crosses would probably be a little bit too over the line. So, but he did a very good job, and having to stop in the middle of the book and look some stuff up and go into the whole history of the United States, and as far as like how insane the revivalism movement was here and how much the hippie movement kind of picked it up and gained a head of steam on it. Yeah, that was something. I did not expect that. I did not even realize that was a thing. So there you go, y'all. See ya.
Violin.